Welcome back to my channel. Today this video is part 2 of the part 1 that I initially posted. Recently, I posted a video that I made $133,000 in 1 year as a travel nurse. This part 2 video is how to become a travel nurse, step-by-step instructional video from the time you become a new graduate nurse to the time you take your first contract. It's very laid out, very simple. It's a short video because a lot of the more in-depth information that you need is in that first video I posted, and that's why it's so long. Knowledge I wish I had before I started, and so if I can help anyone, it would make me happy to know that someone's not struggling as much as I was at one point in time. If you haven't watched it, I highly suggest watching it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below. If you need a recruiter, please let me know. I'd be happy to get a referral to get us both some money. Let's get into the steps of how to become a travel nurse. And this is how I did it. Take what you want, leave what you don't. There's so many people who talk about this. I'm sure you can take something from everyone. Step 1. Obviously, you're a nurse and you are working in the specialty you want to travel in. I really just want to emphasize here that it's important to work in the specialty you want to travel in, because you can't work in ortho and go travel nurse in psych. You can't work in psych and go travel nurse in NICU. You gotta travel nurse where you work, where you are experienced. Step 2. You are working in the specialty for a minimum of a year before you start travel nursing. If you're working in a more critical specialty, sometimes they're going to require 2 or more years of experience, so keep that in mind. And this can be like ICU, emergency department, or any other critical care unit. Depending on what agency you are using as well, be more strict on the requirements or not. Some agencies, they can roll with the punches and say, hey, we'll submit you. If they say no, we can go from there. Other agencies will not let you submit unless you have every single thing, including the number of years of experience required of not only in the specialty, but of being a nurse. Step 3. It's time to begin planning to start your first contract. I recommend about 3 months out, go ahead and create your accounts on these different travel agencies and see what is out there, because you're gonna wanna know when it comes time to apply what the rates are like, what areas you might be interested in, and if you're deciding on where to go, what's going on in that area, what the cost of living is, what the crime rate is like, and take it from there. Also, if you start a little earlier, it'll let you see what you need to submit, what kind of documentation is required to submit to not only the job, but to create your profile on this agency. And it can give you time to go ahead and get certain paperwork that maybe you need to request, like vaccination paperwork, degree, diploma, stuff like that. This time is also important to decide what you're going to do with your housing and with your pets and with your car. Are you going to sublease? Are you going to get a storage unit? Are you going to keep your place of living? Is that going to be considered your permanent residence? Are you going to bring your pets with you? Are your pets going to stay somewhere else? How are you going to get to these locations? Are you going to fly and then have your car shipped, or have a rental car? Or are you going to drive there? Things to take in consideration. Step 4. It is time to start applying. I recommend applying 6 to 8 weeks out from your contract. Typically, it's 6 weeks out from a start date. So if you are looking at a contract and say it's ready to start on August 21st, you're going to be applying around the 1st to 2nd week of July to start that contract. And an even better thing to do when you're applying or when you're looking for a recruiter is to look to your other nurse friends, maybe other travel nurse friends you have. See who they're working with. Ask them if they like their recruiters. Ask if they can refer you, because you can make money from referrals. This screenshot right here is from Host Healthcare. So I do have the ability to refer people to my recruiters. If you're interested in that, please leave a comment and I would be happy to get your information to get you a recruiter. And I've only worked with these recruiters. I have not branched outside because I enjoy having a good rapport and knowing who I'm working with. So that's another thing I recommend, is make sure you have someone good who's on your side. Step 5, you have applied to the job. Now it is time to interview, okay? Here's the thing with interview. Some jobs, they're just gonna post the job, they're just going to send you an offer, and you are just going to either accept it or not within 24 hours. Other jobs you're going to apply to, they're going to review it, they're gonna call you, they're gonna interview you, and then they may or may not give you an offer, and then from there you usually have about 24 hours to accept. If you decide to accept the offer without the interview, without the ability to get more information about the unit you're working on, just know most times you are walking in blind and you really don't know what to expect. Although job applications through the agencies have a very brief description of what to expect, maybe the patient ratios, location, ability to float, time and shifts and all of that, things are different when you actually get there. Just be mindful that it can be the best job or the worst job, and it's only for 13 weeks. But at the same time, guard your license with your life. If it is not safe, do not do it. Refuse assignments, quit. Do not lose your license for some money, period. You worked way too hard to get your license, to go and have it ripped away because you went to an assignment that was unsafe, and now you're in trouble for something that happened there. So know for me, when you're having your interview, my 3 key points to hit on during your interview is to be knowledgeable about your specialty, because they will ask you about things that have happened in your job, your strengths, your weaknesses, an example of a time when something like this happened and how you handled it, or just general medication questions, nursing questions, critical thinking questions. So be knowledgeable. If you don't know, say you don't know and that you would ask for help. Simple. 2, be flexible. Show that you are coming there to help and that you are willing to be flexible while maintaining a work-life balance. Emphasize that you want to maintain a work-life balance, but you are open to helping when help is needed. You can also talk to them about time off requests during that time as well. Lastly, show your personality. Let them get to know you a little bit, have some fun with it. I've come to learn that the more you loosen up, the more honest you are, within reason, gets you there easier. Like, they're not looking for someone with a stick up their butt who's just overly safe or something like that. They want a safe nurse who's gonna come and have good energy and mingle well with their staff as well as the other travelers and leave on a good note. Step 6, you've secured your job. Your interview went great, or you just accepted an offer. Next, it's time to decide where you're gonna live. Maybe you've already been putting in some research about this and seeing what the area is like, so you have a clue. But if not, I recommend using Furnished Finder. I will put the link in the description. This is a traveling healthcare housing. This website allows you to connect with people who are offering housing to travel healthcare professionals only. You can't just be some random person coming on here to get housing. You have to work as a travel healthcare provider. Now, on Furnished Finder, housing renting terms can vary from month to month to 60 days to 90 days. Depending on what you're looking for can determine how long you'll be signing a lease for. The thing to keep in mind with that is, what if your contract does get canceled and you signed a 90-day lease and you're over within the first 30 days? What are you doing the rest of the 60 days? So month to month can be really beneficial because you're not strictly tied for so long. Another thing to consider is whether you want to live alone in your own space from head to toe, kitchen to bathroom, everything, or if you want to rent a space in someone's house and share their house with them. And my experience with both is that when I lived with someone else, I always made sure I had my own bathroom. That's one thing I do not like to do, is share bathrooms. And 2, me personally, I just wanted to live with a woman. And most of the time, the women that I lived with were older, had children, or were in that age range of wanting children, and I became like their child, and they took care of me really well. They made sure I had everything I need. I still keep in touch with them. It was really an amazing experience because they each taught me something I needed to know at that specific time in my life. It's kind of what you want to do for you. But when you live with someone in their house, you can potentially save more money, which means more of your stipend gets pocketed. Or if you live alone, you're forking out a little bit more possibly, depending on where you're living. And sometimes the peace of mind of living alone is worth that. I've done both, so I can say yes to both. Step 7. Next, it is time to get there. If I could go back and do this all over again, I would sell my little Hyundai that I had. Did I have a Hyundai? What kind of car did I have? I had a...
One eternity later.
I would have sold my Chrysler. I would have sold my Chrysler. I would have got an RV that was, you know, within price range, that honestly didn't even really have to be that big, like a camper RV. And I would have taken that all across the country, because you're just going to be paying for a lot to put your RV. You're not paying for someone's whole house. A lot of time lots are like $500 or less for the month. Everything is factored in, what you need for the RV, so that can also play a part in how much you're spending. But if I could do it again, I would do it that way. You have your own space. You never have to worry about how you're gonna get somewhere, because your home is your transportation. But if you don't buy an RV, are you going to drive or are you going to fly? I have done both. I have driven to New Hampshire from North Carolina. I have flown to Washington from North Carolina. I had my car shipped from North Carolina to Washington, and it cost me about $2 grand. So that is something to keep in mind, is the cost of shipping your car. Is it worth it? And I would absolutely say yes. Let's see. $2,000 divided by 13 weeks minimum, because I usually get there a little bit early, a little bit before, leave a little after. $2,000 divided by 13 is $153. So if you decide to rent a car for a week, you're going to potentially be paying the same as you would to have your car shipped. Weigh the pros and cons of having your car shipped or just having a rental. After having my car shipped to Washington, I then drove my car from Washington to Idaho. And then when I was done in Idaho, I drove my car from Idaho down through Wyoming and maybe another state, I can't remember, to Denver. And from Denver, I drove across to St. Louis, Missouri. And then from St. Louis, Missouri, I drove my car back to North Carolina before going to my next contract in Richmond. So honestly, I mean, it's great either way. Whatever you decide to do, ship, drive, fly, the experience is worth it, and you're gonna figure out what to do next time from what you did this time. So those are my step-by-step instructions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Turn your notifications on so you know when I post a new video. And in the meantime, I guess I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.